What if I told you that the most powerful empire in the world doesn't have a flag, an army, or even a president? It doesn't invade nations. It buys them. It doesn't need weapons. It uses debt. And it's been ruling the global economy for over a century, without most people ever noticing. Every time you tap your credit card, take out a loan, or check your bank balance, you're participating in a system built not on gold or labor, but on belief. This is the story of the hidden money empire, how it rose from the ashes of war, reshaped the world through invisible control, and why it might be nearing its breaking point. Section 1. Origins. When gold ruled the world. For most of human history, money meant something. It was gold, silver, or goods. Things you could touch, weigh, and trust. But as trade grew across oceans and continents, carrying real gold became risky. So, powerful merchants and early bankers began using paper notes, promises to pay gold on demand. That promise changed everything. It allowed banks to lend more than they actually had, creating money out of thin air. The idea was simple but dangerous. Trust the paper, not the metal. This was the seed of a new empire, one built not by kings or soldiers, but by bankers and credit. Section 2. The Rise. When banks began to rule by the 1700s, governments discovered the magic of this new system. Wars were expensive, and printing money was easier than raising taxes. In 1694, the Bank of England became the world's first central bank. It lent money to the crown in exchange for interest, a debt that made the state dependent on private financiers. Fast forward to the early 1900s, America had become the new frontier of wealth and power. But financial panics kept wrecking the economy. The solution: create a private institution with government backing, a central bank that could control the money supply. In 1913, behind closed doors and with minimal public understanding, the Federal Reserve was born. It was sold as a safeguard against chaos, but in reality, it gave private banking interests the power to create money itself and lend it to the government at interest. Debt became the engine, and every dollar you've ever used since began as a loan. Section 3. The Breaking Point. When money lost its soul for decades, the dollar was backed by gold, a promise that kept the system stable. But by the 1960s, the U.S. was spending far beyond its means, funding wars, social programs, and expansion across the globe. Foreign governments began demanding gold instead of paper. And in 1971, President Richard Nixon made a quiet announcement that changed history forever. The U.S. would no longer exchange dollars for gold. In one stroke, money was detached from anything real. It became pure belief, value backed only by trust in governments and banks. The hidden money empire was now free from all limits. It could create, lend, and expand infinitely. Section 4. The Fallout. When debt became the new currency, once the link to gold was gone, debt exploded. Governments borrowed to pay for promises. Corporations borrowed to grow profits. Ordinary people borrowed just to survive. In 1971, global debt was manageable. Today it exceeds $315 trillion, 3 times the world's entire economic output. And yet, the system depends on it. Because when new money is created through loans, the only way to keep the empire alive is to create even more. This isn't capitalism. It's debtism, a global economy addicted to credit. Section 5. Failed fixes and modern parallels every few years. The illusion wobbles. Markets crash. Currencies collapse. Banks fail. And each time central banks save the world by printing even more money. Different crises. Same solution. More debt. More control. Now, as nations move toward digital currencies, the empire grows stronger than ever. Money can now be created, tracked, and erased with a few lines of code. Financial power is becoming not just invisible, but programmable. The empire no longer needs coins or cash. It rules through data. Section 6. The repeating pattern. Every empire in history follows the same cycle. Trust creates stability. Expansion brings prosperity. Greed breeds corruption, and collapse clears the slate. Rome did it with silver. Britain did it with colonies. And today, the modern money empire does it with credit. Each time the bubble bursts, wealth doesn't disappear. It simply moves upward. The poor lose savings. The middle class loses homes. And those who understand the system buy everything back for pennies. History doesn't repeat it. Compounds. Section 7. Takeaways. Warning and call to action. So what can we learn from the hidden money empire? Takeaway number 1. Money is no longer value its belief. The real assets are skills, resources, and knowledge that inflation can't erase. Takeaway number 2. Debt can build or destroy. Used wisely, it creates leverage. Used blindly, it becomes a trap. Takeaway number 3. Control follows credit. Those who issue the loans control the future. Individuals, corporations, and nations alike. The warning: the system can't last forever. Every empire built on illusion eventually faces reality. And when this one falls, it won't just be markets that reset. It'll be the very definition of wealth itself. So, prepare. Learn how money truly works. Build assets that no central bank can print. Because in a world ruled by invisible empires, knowledge is the last real currency. If this opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and share this video.